is online. Did council meetings. They're broadcast live. Archive them and do what we're doing right now. Upload them to YouTube. These are all very cheap, inexpensive ways, but they bring up so much accountability and so much transparency. And also, the new council has to focus on the right issues. We can't be debating about a stop sign on a street somewhere. We need to focus on core issues that matter to people, that matter to citizens, and it doesn't take long to find them out. You need to engage the public. Thank you.
That was pretty good for 1 minute, but Lynn Gibson, please.
Thank you.
I wish I had taken that auctioneer's course. It's a tough question to answer, really, because there's such a variety. Ward 9 is so expanded with the different diversities that we have. In South End, we've got a lot of residential households, of course, and we have waterfront on the Wanapate and the 165 lakes. And so the one thing that I know that we have in common that I would like to address is water. Water is the cornerstone to life. Whether it's municipal, if you're in Coniston or in the South End, you're on municipal drinking water. Therefore, that water mostly comes from Ramsey Lake, and it's really, really important that we get back onto the drawing board, the Ramsey Lake watershed, because of the risks and threats and so on for that municipal drinking source. For private drinking sources, many people are on their own, whether they're drinking from the lake or the river. So we need to think about protecting those sources. Septic systems are the issue that needs to be addressed there. So water is very important. It touches us all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I visit many homes in this ward, and the feeling is that many services have been decreased while taxes have increased by up to 78% over the last 8 years. What isn't an issue? We have to improve maintenance of our creeks and ditches to control the flooding. Our environment is changing, and the city has to adapt to this climate change. Roads are not being maintained. Value for your dollar would be the proper asphalt used for potholes and paving. Snow plowing has deteriorated along with the sidewalk clearing. Does not make sense to park trucks along with the sand and Sudbury and go back each time. Affordable housing, busing or lack of busing. I've talked to residents of our ward that have had their sons or daughters move to residence at college and university because of lack of busing. All areas should be treated equally. I visited over 4,000 homes, and the theme is one of abandonment. We need uniform services, affordable housing for seniors. Let's solve these problems now. Thank you.
I've knocked on over half the doors in Ward 9 and spoken to hundreds of people. It's a very high level of engagement in Ward 9. The number one desire is to have City Council that works together to make a better Sudbury and to get things done. They want an accountable, transparent, and fiscally responsible council. I'm going to give you all three of them. Number 2 is our infrastructure, specifically the condition of our roads. They want us to fix the roads we have before we widen and build new ones. And number 3 is concern for the water, the quality of our water, both our drinking water and our recreational water throughout our city. This is a grave concern. And I'm done and under.
Well, I don't know how many doors I knocked on. I'm sure it was way over 3,000. But I'll tell you one thing right now. The most important thing in Ward 9 that I've noticed, and speaking to people in the area, number 1 is taxes. We're going to be faced with a 4.9% increase. Well, I don't think that's acceptable. As a councillor, I will table the motion again and bring the taxes down. We are going to have to work again on efficiencies. Efficiencies are very, very important. I'm a member of the library board, and we built a $5 million library in the South End. We had estimates coming in at $6 million, $7 million. It was going over budget, and we managed to secure the $5 million project. So, you know, you can always find savings. It's just a matter of working and making sure that it happens. Thank you.
Folks, while knocking on over 2,000 doors and talking to hundreds and hundreds of people, I feel it is unanimous that the number 1 issue in our ward is property taxes. I believe that we can find efficiencies at City Hall. An example of this is that on the day after Boxing Day, Last year, I was driving down the Kingsway to go shopping. To my surprise, there was a lane of traffic blocked off and the pothole crew was out there filling potholes. Normally, I would love to see this, but on that particular day, it was minus 45 out. And at minus 45, asphalt doesn't stick. So we're wasting our time and money, and it's all comes down to rework. So it's rework, 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 and these managers at City Hall need to be held accountable. Also, in order to keep tax increases down, we need to grow. My entire platform is designed and based on growth. In order for us to grow, we have to attract businesses, entrepreneurs, and young professionals to our region. The only way we are going to be able to do this is to provide such services such as lower property taxes, proper sporting infrastructure, proper access to health care, and an efficient, stable local government. These services...
Thank you.
Next question, and I think we start with Will. Yes. It's okay. You have the questions. It's okay. I cannot. The other right.
That's okay.
I can't read my own writing. So, given the proposed budget of a 4.9% increase in taxes for the coming year, what actions would you suggest be taken? One more time. Given the proposed budget of a 4.9% increase in taxes for the coming year, what actions would you suggest be taken? That's yours.
I thought it was mine. Are you up mine? No, I was up for this one's 2 minutes.
Oh, it's 2 minutes.
That's 2 minutes. And it's finding time.
There's all that fast talking on the last one. So how would I deal with a 4.9% tax hike? I just want to share one quick story. One of the women that I met in our ward, she's lived in her house for 45 years. She's on a fixed income. And when she heard this news, and when I was talking to her, she's very distressed because she doesn't know if she can stay in her house anymore. She has a dilemma. If she does stay in her house, she has to make choices between reducing the heat or figuring out what she's going to buy to eat. And you know what? That's wrong. There's a disconnect between the people making these decisions and the people electing them. I can't accept that, and if elected, I would support at least a minimal cost of living, geared to cost of living type of a tax increase where it doesn't exceed what people gain every year, or a tax freeze altogether. Windsor, in Southern Ontario, it's a similar city, very similar to Sudbury. They have done this. It's not a rocket science type of issue. You have to be prudent and wise with your spending. Earlier this year, I think we all remember this Greater Sudbury, a resourceful city, the rebranding, $70,000 for that. We don't need those things. We don't need to spend our money like that. If it's coming out of our pockets, our own pockets, we would not be spending money like that. It's not sustainable. People are fed up, and we have to do something about it, and people deserve better. Thank you.
Typically taxes, the 4.9% number that we've seen in the papers and have been given to by the financial people at City Hall, and typically the tax budgets always start high. I think everybody in this room will agree that we've been through this process enough to know that if you aim high, then it's going to come down when the deliberation starts. So it's really important that the councillor that you choose is ready to roll up her sleeves and get at the deliberations for the budgets, which will start in January. That typically starts in, if I'm not mistaken, in the summer before. So there's a lot of work to be done on those deliberations. The other thing is that the department heads need to reevaluate their budgets and the efficiencies. I have the experience from my role as an operations manager, and as well as my role in many boards, because budgets are a very, very important part. New revenue streams, especially for major capital campaigns like arenas and so on. And that's, again, you've heard the P3, the private-public partnerships. The wastewater facility that's currently being built is under one of those P3 programs. Known savings from the start. Well, I think it's time to revisit little things and big things. One of the little things is the fluoride that's put into the municipal drinking water. That costs about $115,000 a year for the city to put the fluoride into our drinking water, which is debatable. That's not even including the maintenance of the infrastructure. And of course, we've heard about the wastewater, or the waste savings that could be had if we had bi-weekly pickup perhaps versus weekly pickup of our green garbage bags. So there's some very good things that are already there. Let's start cleaning up that house. Thank you.
We need zero-based budgets to be introduced with managers working within their approved budgets. We cannot start with an existing budget and just keep adding on. That is what's going on now. Remember that a 1% saving would amount to around $5 million. 1%. Committee members should be selected for their skills they bring to that area, such as finance. We have to put a stop to over-budgeting when bringing in outside contractors. Why can city workers not complete repairs like water breaks? Over $20 million was overspent last year in just that area, and it seems to be rolled into the main budget the next year. Do the jobs properly the first time. I'm sure everyone has seen in Coniston some water breaks that they've been back 5 times, 5 different contractors, outside contractors. We cannot continue to have a city that does not run on a budget. Now is the time to change this overspending. Thank you.
As I stated earlier, it's important that Council's first order of business to be set those goals and a strategic plan to reach those goals. This will help us when reviewing the proposed budget and will help determine where we should be investing our resources. We need to balance our current priorities with our future needs, and we need to keep both top of mind as we deliberate over the budget. I'd like to see Council undertake a comprehensive review of all the non-essential services in the city. A number of things we fund currently have been talked about individually and in isolation. I think we should talk about them all at the same time and decide what's important to us and which things we should invest in adequately and which things we should divest ourselves of. We need to examine and evaluate the investments we make in the community and collectively decide what's best for our community as a whole, not just by ward, but by the whole city. Because when one of us rises, we all rise. Thank you.
Well, I'm not in favor of a 4.9% increase, and I'll tell you why. We have a developer that came into our city and bought the general hospital, okay? 4 years ago. To date, he has spent over $3 million, okay, in development charges. He is 2 years behind. So if you take a look at 2 years at 160 units, a tax base of probably $6,000 per unit, we lost approximately $2 million on that development alone in 2 years, but he bought it 4 years ago. So these are some of the things that we have to look at these efficiencies. If we streamline every department and we take a look at these projects and we find cost savings, we will be there. I'm not saying 0%. We're aiming at 0%, but it should not go beyond the rate of inflation. Thank you.
Folks, we don't have a revenue problem at the city. We have a spending problem. It all comes down to rework, rework, rework. Filling one pothole 4 times a year isn't really a problem. It's filling 4,000 potholes 4 times a year that is costing us money. We can't continue to allow status quo to remain acceptable. By talking with frontline workers and management, I'll work with other city councilors and the new mayor to find the savings. It is also my belief that by strategically selling some of the city's vacant real estate, that we can capture some of these savings. These buildings are costing us money, and we should be able to sell them and start collecting property tax revenue off of them. As a council, we have to prioritize our spending and deliver a lean, workable budget for managers who can meet our expectations. We need to grow immediately, and we have to be aggressive in that growth.
Well, that's a foregone conclusion that 4.9% is not acceptable. It was never meant to be to become a reality. because I've been attending city council meeting for the last 25 years. I attend every finance committee meeting, and it always starts off and then they start to cut. And then it comes down to the short strokes and how much can we cut, and who wants to lose what service, and who wants to take that risk and go out there. So if we're gonna make this, and I certainly would love to see a 1% tax increase. That would make my heart glow. But if we're gonna cut non-mandated services, then we have to go to the community and say, are you in favor of us cutting that service? Because if you are, then we will cut it, because you are telling us to. We have to start taking direction from our community. You are the people that are paying the dollars. You're paying your big tax bills. And we cannot no longer stay in the confines of Tom Davies Square and make decisions that are going to affect 160,000 people on a continual basis. That means communication and consultation, two of the main ingredients of running a very productive, progressive municipal government. And I have worked for this municipal government for 34 years. I know what it takes to run, and I know there's a way too much contracting out, and I know that we've tried to fight that back and tried and time again. We've been successful in some areas and not in others. But that takes a community effort as well. We got to get out there and talk to the people, talk to the contractors, talk to the politicians, talk to the bureaucrats, and say too much is too much is too much. And their answer will likely be, you want your street repaired or not? You want your water line repaired or not? And the answer is going to be, well, of course I want it repaired. When do you want it repaired? Now or in 12 hours? So if we're going to make those sacrifices, let's be prepared to take the heat for it, and let's get on with the program. Enough talking. Now it's action.
Thank you.
Nothing brings up passion like taxes. Lynn, this is going to be yours to start this one. This is the 5th question, and the question is, what is your definition of leadership, and what leadership's qualities would you bring to council if elected? One more time. What is your definition of leadership, and what leadership qualities would you bring to council if elected? Lynn?
2 minutes.
Leadership is a big question.